Alan Carlson, a 99-year-old man, is the film's main character. He appears to be very close to his cat, who lives with him in a remote Swedish village. The cat is unfortunately killed by a wolf after sneaking outside in the snow one day. The loss of his one and only friend has devastated Alan. As a result, he begins plotting his vengeance. After setting up some dynamites in the snow, he feeds the fox sausages. The poor animal is blown to pieces when it gets close. The old man is initially pleased by this, but he is later punished for his actions. Alan is moved to a retirement community, where he will spend the rest of his life. Alan doesn't get used to the place after a few weeks. He longs to get some fresh air again, but the authorities prevent him from doing so. On his 100th birthday, fed up, Alan breaks out of the retirement home through a window. He is happy to finally be outside, even though he does not have any relatives to contact or a plan to carry out. He arrives at a bus station after wandering the streets for some time. He then pulls out some coins and requests tickets for the next bus from the receptionist. The receptionist suggests that he visit Beringe, a nearby town, since the funds are insufficient. Alan, fed up with the retirement home, immediately purchases the ticket despite his explanation that it is a desolate location with only one resident. Bolton, a gang member who appears unhappy, arrives there just at that moment, bringing a large suitcase with him. He enters the bathroom immediately, but the suitcase is too big. As a result, he directs Alan to take care of it until he returns. The elderly man accepts, but when his bus arrives, he immediately climbs aboard with the suitcase. When the bus finally leaves the station, Alan begins to describe his early years. His father attempted to sell rubber protection to the general public when he was a young boy. However, the Swedish monarchy considered this to be blasphemy, and he was imprisoned for it. Later, they used the firing squad to put him to death. Alan recalls the day that officials informed him of his father's passing at his residence. Some of his belongings, primarily ornaments and explosives, had been brought along. Even though his mother broke down in tears, Alan didn't care because his father was never present in his life. Instead, he began experimenting with the explosives and quickly turned it into a pastime. After a prolonged battle with cancer, his mother also passed away a few years later. Alan was now completely on his own, without any family or friends to help him. However, neither did he care. Alan kept up his hobby of blowing things up and got better at it over time. He arrives at Beringe, a small town in the middle of nowhere, in the present. When the supervisory station, Julius asks if everything is okay when he sees Alan wandering around with a big suitcase. The latter says that all he wants to do before he dies is see as much of the world as possible. As soon as he learns of this, Julius extends an invitation to him and offers him some food. At this point, officials at the retirement home have also learned about Alan's disappearance, and Detective Aronson is leading a medium-scale search operation. Bolton has reportedly assaulted the receptionist in another location, and the two are currently traveling to Beringe. The irate member of the gang is determined to retrieve his suitcase, indicating that it contains something extremely valuable. He eventually reaches Beringe and immediately enters the one and only house there. Bolton begins assaulting Julius when he discovers him in the kitchen in search of suitcase information. Fortunately, Alan comes in behind him and hits him in the head, knocking him out. After that, the two oldies drag his body and place him in a freezer. In the following scene, Alan and Julius decide to look inside the suitcase by opening it. To their surprise, it's a lot of money. The two, despite being old, decide to keep the money for themselves because they are blinded by it. They drink to celebrate their success that night. They discover, regrettably, that Bolton is still frozen in the freezer the following morning. When Julius opens the door to check on him, the gang member has already passed away. The elderly find this upsetting given that an innocent man died as a result of their carelessness. However, Alan admits that this is not his first homicide. He accidentally detonated a merchant when he was a teenager, decades ago, testing his new explosives. He was confined to a mental asylum, where he had to spend the next 30 years. In addition, the authorities feared that Alan's offspring would pose a threat to society and neutered him before he was allowed to leave the facility. Until he got a job at a cannon factory, Alan went around the city. He began learning about politics there after meeting Esteban, a Spanish revolutionary. They became close friends over the course of the day, and Alan eventually agreed to join Esteban in the fight against the Spanish dictatorship. The two set out for Madrid with the intention of assassinating General Franco. However, Esteban was killed on the first day due to his talkative nature. However, Alan was unfazed by this, and he carried on doing what he excelled at, exploding things. He played a significant role in the revolution and contributed to the victory of several battles for his group. However, He abruptly quit and decided to return to Sweden one day while attempting to detonate explosives. He stopped a car on his way back to ask for a ride, and at the same time, a large explosion was going on nearby. General Franco was the driver of the car, which surprised him. Because Alan saved his life, he considered him a hero. As a result, General Franco surprised Alan with a lavish party and a highly collectible pistol as a token of his gratitude. Back in the present, the oldies load Bolton's body into a box and transport it in a wagon for Djibouti. In the meantime, the earlier receptionist goes to the police station to tell Detective Aronson about Bolton and the elderly man. Additionally, he reveals that they are at the moment in Beringe. The detective immediately heads to the town upon hearing this. Shortly thereafter, he makes his way there and begins searching the house for hints. He goes to a nearby radio station and announces that a 100-year-old man has vanished after finding nothing. They will be rewarded handsomely if they are successful in locating him. We meet Gedin, a man with a ferocious appearance, elsewhere. He is shown to be the leader of the same gang that Bolton once belonged to. Because of a recent offense, Gedin is currently under house arrest. The suitcase was supposed to be delivered to one of his customers, which was unfortunate for him. He now has 24 hours to locate it. He will be executed if he fails to comply. On the other hand, Julius and Alan suddenly change their minds and decide to go somewhere else as they are returning home. As a result, they approach a young man by the name of Benny and request a ride from him. The latter concurs and inquires, "Where do you want me to drop you off?" To which the older members respond, "Wherever you are going." Benny is slightly perplexed by this, but he continues driving without asking any questions. They stop at a gas station to refuel after a while. Benny confronts Alan about his missing posters, which are unfortunate. The elderly man tries unsuccessfully to get out of the situation by lying. As a result, he reluctantly divulges the entire truth about how a man was killed and how they have millions of dollars. Benny is then requested by Julius to join their team and drive them across the country. He will receive an equal share of the money in return. Benny accepts without hesitation. The movie then switches to another flashback. In exchange for an American work permit, Franco offered Alan the pistol he had been given by Franco. He started out as a construction worker, but as he gained a deeper understanding of explosives, he began interacting with well-known scientists like Oppenheimer. He even assisted them in resolving a crucial Manhattan Project issue, the most powerful nuclear weapon at the time. Alan quickly gained popularity in the United States to the point where even the vice president invited him to dinner. After a few years, Alan went back to Sweden. For his contributions to nuclear physics, he was regarded as a hero by many people. He ran into a Russian scientist by the name of Popov one day while he was in a meeting with some Swedish diplomats. They quickly became friends due to their shared interest in explosives, and Popov invited Alan to accompany him to Russia. Alan met with Stalin on his first day in Moscow. Alan declined the latter's request to reveal everything about the Manhattan Project. He was sent to the Gulag as a result, where he met Albert Einstein's shy twin brother, Herbert. After plotting for a full year, the two destroyed the location completely to escape. In the present, when Benny's car runs out of gas, they have to stop at a farm by the side of the road. The holder, Gunilla, stipulates that they must pay her a substantial sum before she will provide them with overnight lodging. The three of them start to laugh when they hear this because they have no issue with money. Gunilla eventually lets them meet her pet elephant, which lives in a shed nearby. The three people continue to live in the house after a few days. Because she has finally made some good friends, Gunilla also doesn't tell them to leave. Sadly, a gang member discovers their location one day after spotting Alan nearby. He slowly walks up to the house holding a gun and grabs Alan from behind as everyone else is distracted. The other members of the gang are then threatened with bringing his suitcase out if they don't want to see the elderly man die. Benny reluctantly enters and retrieves the bag, but Gunilla arrives with her own weapon just as the gang member is about to flee. The member of the gang is frightened by this, and in his panic, he slips and falls right under the enormous elephant. Sadly, the poor animal becomes terrified and immediately kills the gang member by sitting on top of him. After the incident, the men finally reveal the amount of money and offer Gunilla an equal share. She will have to assist them in disposing of the body in exchange. Gedin has become agitated elsewhere because two of his gang members have not returned his calls. He decides to break his ankle device and go looking for the suitcase himself as the pressure builds. The movie goes back in time once more. Alan joined the CIA as an agent. He was approached by the Soviet secret intelligence group shortly thereafter, KGB. Alan became a double agent as both parties offered him good compensation. Leaking secret American information to the Soviets and vice versa was part of his daily routine. He was a snitch for years, but he was never caught. Back in the present, the group gets rid of the body of the gang member and decides to leave the house because it is no longer safe. Gunilla then pulls out her truck, which has enough room for the elephant to be adjusted as well. They soon hit the road and drove to another city, but Geddon found them on the way. He comes to a stop in front of them, tries to shoot the driver, and the car crashes horribly. Geddon sustains serious injuries in the aftermath, so the group treats him and transports him in the truck. They then continue their journey and make their way to an airstrip nearby. It turns out that Alan has used one of his previous connections to book them a flight home. Geddon finally wakes up a few hours later, but he has no idea who he is or how he got there. Therefore, he maintains his composure and chooses to continue traveling with the guys. They finally make it to their destination that evening, where Alan's contact picks them up. They soon take off, hoping for a better life, and even the elephant has adjusted to the airplane. The group reaches Bali in the final scene. It turns out that Alan had planned to do this. He wanted to spend the rest of his life in the balmy skies of Bali ever since he touched the suitcase. Benny and Gunilla get married, and Geddon starts living a good life after leaving behind his criminal past. The elephant is finally free to roam the luscious forests and golden beaches without being bothered. Thanks for watching my videos. Please hit that like button and do not forget to subscribe to my channel.